Alright, yeah, and welcome back to some more Gwent. This week we're going to take a look at a deck I like to call Cross Country Dwarves. So this deck is a scoia'tael deck that revolves around dwarves, but also a little bit of a movement strategy. I should say, full disclaimer, that this is not the best deck that I've ever made in the world. It's actually kind of working with what I have available in my card pool at the moment. So I do ask for forgiveness on some of the lesser strategies that are in this one, but it's been doing quite well. I've been taking it into ranked and doing really kind of relatively good. I still think the Nilfgaard revealed deck is doing so much better, though. That's the one that I'm using to grind. But anyway, guys, you're here for a deck tech. So we're going to be running Bruvahug. So Bruvahug is one of our leaders. He says, when you deploy him, you get to play a silver unit from your deck and shuffle the others back. So we get a little bit of utility with Bruvahug. He gets to get one of 6 cards, essentially. Depending on what's in our hand, of course, he can go grab whatever he wants. So let's have a look at our silvers, first of all. We've got Buckley. So Buckley is a dwarf. He says whenever you deploy him, you get a random bronze or silver dwarf from your deck, and you get to boost it by 3. So the things that he can hit are essentially Yarpen, which is a 7th strength resilient unit, and whenever a dwarf enters the field, essentially, you get to boost him by 1. So he gets a nice little boost the longer the game goes on, essentially. We can also hit Sheldon Skags, so Sheldon can be a little bit hit and miss with our Barclay Els, because he really synergizes well with the Blue Mountain Commandos. So the Blue Mountain Commandos say whenever this unit is moved, boost it by 2, and then whenever you deploy it, you deploy all of the Mountain Commandos onto the same row. So Sheldon essentially wants to go on whatever row these guys are going on, so he'll move all 3 of these units off of the row and then boost himself by 3, but these guys get boosted by 2 as well, so there's a fair bit of a point value there. He's also quite useful for dodging weather as well. So if your opponent weathers one of the rows on the board, you can actually just Sheldon that row. Everything comes off of that row except for Sheldon, and you essentially save a lot of points there, depending on the situation anyway. We've then got Dennis Kramer. So Dennis is a strengthen all units, bronze and silver dwarves in your deck, hand and on your side of the board by 1. So strengthen, not boost, essentially increases the unit's base power. So everything becomes a little bit stronger without being able to be reset. So these become base strength 6 wherever they are. Base strength 6 for our guards, base strength 7 for our mercenaries, that kind of thing. We then got Cleaver as well. Cleaver allows us to toggle a unit's lock, so he's here for any of those units that might be ticking from turn to turn. So maybe a Trebuchet for Northern Realms, Mangonels for Reveal Nilfgaard, that kind of thing. Maybe even a one of the Vran Warriors for Consume, that kind of thing. He can hit all of those stuff, so he's here for a little bit of utility. He's also a dwarf though as well, so he synergizes quite well, and he's pretty cool. We then have Ida Enmian as well, another utility card. So she is an elf, so she doesn't synergize totally with the deck, but she does allow us to do a multiple amounts of things which are quite useful to us. She's probably really good in most scoia'tael decks. So she got 3 things she can do. She can either spawn Impenetrable Fog, which allows us to tick some damage every single turn, so damaging the highest unit on the row by 2. She can clear skies against Dagon Weather or any other weather-based strategy for maybe Skellige, that kind of thing. And then she's also got Quensign as well, so she allows us to choose a unit in our hand and give all copies of it in our hand deck a shield. And a shield essentially protects that unit from the first point of damage that it takes. So if it gets hit by weather, it doesn't lose any points, but then the next time it will lose points. If our opponent uses something like a Triss Marigold to damage by 5, that damage is negated and the shield goes away, that kind of thing. We want to stick this probably on our Mahakam Defenders or even our Blue Mountain Commandos before we play them, because we can actually thin them out of our deck that way as well. So let's move on to the golds. This is where I'm not very happy with the deck. I don't really have the scraps right now to produce the golds that I would maybe want to. So the only gold that we've got right now that I'm very happy with is Zoltan Chivet. So Zoltan is yet again another movement based unit. He's a dwarf as well, so he gets the little bit of a boost from everything as well. He gets to move 3 units to the same row that we play him on, and then strengthen them by 2 if they're our allies. So essentially, we can move our opponent's units as well, but only if they're allies do they get that strength. So we can move maybe the Mahakam defenders off of the row, because we might want to actually not row stack with these guys. We might want to take one of them at least off of the front row, so that in the case of maybe a Geralt Igni, not all of them get hit by the same unit, because there's a good chance that these guys might be actually the same power, so we've got to watch out for that. We don't want to be row stacking our defenders if we can help it, because that is our win con, and if that's gone, we've probably just lost on the spot. So he allows us to move a few units onto the same row. He can also help us dodge weather as well, just the same as Sheldon can. So let's look at the actual build around card for the deck. The Mahakam Defender is a 5 strength melee unit, and all he does is when you deploy him, he gains resilience. And resilience essentially means that at the end of the round, instead of going to the graveyard, he sticks around for the rest of the round. So if we boost this guy into Oblivion to win the first round, if we carry over to the second round, we get to keep the Mahakam Defenders on the board for the beginning of the second round, which is really useful for us. So we can win the first round, and then we can really, really work hard to win the second round, and that's pretty much what our strategy is, essentially. Win the first round by going all out, and then because we've gone all out, our second round's perfectly fine. Half of the cards that we played in the first round aren't really lost, because they're usually been applied to the Mahakam Defenders. So then we have Marja Guards as well. When you deploy these, you boost an ally by 3, and if it's a dwarf, you boost it by 4 instead. So we want to put these on the defenders, as we mentioned. All points really want to go on the defender, unless we're trying to avoid Scorch, or maybe we want to spread some damage away. Something along those lines. If it's not got resilience, then we don't want to put points on it, essentially. We've then got the Dwarven mercenaries as well. Dwarven mercenaries allows us to move a unit from that row onto its side, and if it's an ally, we get to boost it by 3. So if we want to move a unit on our opponent's side, we can absolutely do that. There are situations where we might want to do that. But most of the time, we probably want to just avoid the row stacking issue of the Mahakam defenders. Move these off of the row, maybe protect them. If our opponent uses something maybe like a succubus, which allows you to steal the highest strength unit, maybe they put it on our front row, we might want to use the mercenaries to move the Mahakam defenders off of that row so that that unit is not stolen from us. That's the kind of strategy. So as we mentioned, this is kind of a resilience-focused deck, so we do run 1 copy of Adrenaline Rush, just in case it goes to the third round. So if we went all out in the first, won it, and second round we're kind of low on cards, but we still have that strength left over, and our opponent's clearly going to win, then maybe we want to stick an Adrenaline Rush back on one of our high-strength units to carry it into the third round, which could then win us the game. So we've got 1 copy of that just in case, but we're only running 1 copy, mostly because most of the units already come with resilience built in. We've then got immune boosts as well, so these add 3 armor to 3 adjacent units and boost them by 3. So if we get all 3 Mahakam defenders, they get 3 boosts and 3 armor. And armor essentially is like adding points without adding points. It protects the unit from losing us points when they take damage, essentially. So weather protection is kind of that situation. Any kind of damage-based stuff also protects them there. If we're going against like a damaging Skellige deck, then we deny them a few points by putting armor on these guys, that kind of thing. So it allows us to carry that over, and the armor does carry over with those as well. Finally, we've got marjoram as well. So marjoram allows us to do 2 things, and we only really want to do one of them. So mutagen allows us to reset a unit and then strengthen it by 3. So if we've got something with base power that's not gold on our field that we maybe want to boost up, maybe it's taking a lot of damage, then maybe we want to use the spores. Most of the time though, maybe we want to use the mutagen, sorry. Most of the time though, we want to use the spores. And spores are here as a metagame situation right now. So it allows us to reset a unit and weaken it by 3. So if we think about Consume Monsters uses a same resilience strategy with Katakans, which are 3 strength units. And they consume a unit and take its power, essentially, and they have resilience to take into the next round. Marjoram allows us to essentially completely banish that unit. So it's 3 strength, gets weakened after it gets reset. So our opponent might be consuming their entire board by that point, and then they'll use a Catachan to pass over to the second round because they think they're going to win. Then we'll marjoram, maybe take the round, and then they've got no carryover into the second one, whereas we do, so we get that little bit of advantage. We can also use these on the mulligan units for scoia'tael, and we can also use them for the spotters as well for Nilfgaard. All of those things are really good at resetting. There's usually a lot of points in here with marjoram. It's never really a bad card, because at the very least we can actually just strengthen one of our own units. So that's essentially the deck, guys. If you did enjoy the look of it, then be sure to like and subscribe, and don't forget to check out the matches that I should have already published by this point. And if you hit the little bell icon as well, you'll get a notification when that video does go live. Alright guys, hope you enjoyed. See you next time. Bye bye.